for those of you guys who have been using this for a while, it's like someday you're in here and there's a new button. It's like, oh, sweet, I've been waiting for that one, Yeah. It's constantly updating. It's not like we change things around, but it's just continually improving. And it is really a real-time live process of feature requests. We answer feature requests. I answer feature requests in like a week or two. So the birthday thing, yeah. When I say it's coming, it doesn't mean like, yeah, in the 2010 release. Yeah. That means like this month. Yeah. Yep. Okay, so lists, other examples of when to use lists. Yesterday I had well, here we go. Let me pull this back up. Non-unifying criteria, when to use lists. Board members, advisory board, teams, groups. Oh, exceptions and exclusions to a query. That's huge. Okay, I want to find every customer because I want to send to everybody this one email, except Tim just left my office. It'd be kind of ridiculous to send him a duplicate email on this. Or I just got out of a meeting with Tim, Joe, and Bob. I create a list, and I can delete it the very next minute, but I create a quick list, add 3 people to it, and then that can be an exclude. When I make my query, I want to find everyone who is a customer, who is involved in AddressTwo, who is this, who is that, and is not found on this list. Use your lists intelligently for an include, or for an exclude or an include. Okay? An include meaning I want everyone, and I also want to make sure Tim gets this. Okay? So includes is here our hogs? I love that.
Bears.
Those are bears. They sound like hogs to me. Growing up on the farm, that sounds like what the pigs sounded like all day long. All right. Exceptions to a query. So advanced querying, using lists and using keywords. Under history keywords, so a couple more advanced things I wanted to show you in querying. I already showed you how to use the list in querying. Include or exclude the list, right? Under history, I want to make this point. Develop a habit of consistency. Develop a habit of consistency. Every time someone registered for the Hullabaloo, it went in the history under that contact as registered for the AddressTwo Hullabaloo. I didn't just say registered or registered for the Hullabaloo, registered for the AddressTwo Hullabaloo, registered for or registered Hullabaloo or anything like that. Develop a habit of consistency. Same reasoning as the descriptions. I can come in here and I can say I want to find everyone where the history includes registered. I need to blank this out because I've got a bunch of other stuff in there too. History includes, and if I've been consistent, I can put in that keyword, registered for the AddressTwo Hullabaloo, and everyone comes up based on the history.
Where did you put that registered for the AddressTwo Hullabaloo at in the individual?
Okay, fastest way to know that I'm going to give a good example would be Hullabaloo registrants. Steve, right down here, in the history. So this is everything that's happened with this account. Do you guys, why do I see gasps and ohs? You didn't know that you could track history records?
I just didn't know.
So I did a call out. I talked to Steve about upgrading to the campaign manager.
And then again, that right there is where you're talking about being
Be consistent. Bingo. So every time I have a conversation with somebody about upgrading to the campaign manager, be consistent. And then if you're consistent, later I can come in and I can do a search for everywhere the phrase appears, upgrading to the campaign manager. I know we've had that conversation. Does it make sense to everyone? Develop a habit of consistency. How about on time?
Okay.
Perfect. Okay. Real world examples. So I want to ask you guys now. These are real world examples that have happened in the last 7 days. A user, this is Paul Miller, has 2 different salespeople, Jim and Paul, and Kristen set this up for him. We actually helped him do it. We're like, okay, whatever, we'll help you do it however you want to do it. They're new, they don't have any customers yet. So under user defined, we have Jim's prospects and Paul's prospects. How should we have done this?
In the account manager.
Account manager? And what field does prospect fall under? Customer status.
Yeah.
Account manager and customer status. If we'd have tagged those 2 things, these guys are like they're just starting out in the database, so you can imagine right now it's just kind of, it seems logical. Jim's prospects and Paul's prospects, then they land their first sale, then they've got Jim's customers and Paul's customers, you know, and then they lose their first sale, and they've got Jim's former customers and Paul's former customers. This is insane. Okay, Jack.
So question on the same line. So like when I meet, let's say I met Sean at the Rainmakers event,
Mhm.
right? So when I enter stuff in the database, I say, you know, the category,
Mhm.
the reminder thing is Rainmaker. So is that the best way to do that?
Have you ever heard the expression, how many ways there are to skin a cat?
Right, yeah.
So you could do, if you're consistent, you can do history, appointment or event, or however you want to, whatever you want to categorize it as. Met at RM. I do this. Met at RM Fishers 2, right?
I see your address, yeah.
Okay.
I see what you're doing. Okay.
And now I'm going to search every time for all the history that says met at RM. The other option you can do is I actually use user defined, and I've got a few values there. One is RM, one is baggy, another one is different organizations.
Okay.
Different ways you can do it. Yep.
Okay.
So you can use your user defined field as the source or wherever they came from. Okay. All right, next real world example. Suppose I don't need the welcome anymore, do I? I can close that PowerPoint. All right. User, I get this email. This is a real email. They've already got primary products and user-defined fields being used for another form of custom segmentation. They're already using those. And I get this email. I have categories: colleagues, advisory board, and team members.
Right.
Didn't know how I should categorize them since I already used the user-defined. How would you do this?
That's too much of a- Yep.
Wouldn't that be in your stats?
What'd you say, Bob?
List?
Lists. I would definitely do these as lists. Colleagues, these are, okay, so how often is colleagues going to be changing? It's not like you're going to be at a networking event or be licensing a new list of prospects and they're all going to be colleagues, right? That doesn't make any sense. Or team members, I'm not really sure what the difference is between team members and colleagues. Or in my advisory board. My advisory board isn't dynamic. It's not necessarily need to be a query. This is a great example of a list. Great example of a list. And then what you can do is if you want to make sure when you're doing marketing, I'm going to send out this postcard that to everyone else may sound kind of personal, but to the guy that I just had beers with last night doesn't. I want to find everyone who is a prospect, but who is not found on the colleagues list. Because also maybe I just want to save 41 cents for the 16 colleagues I have. I don't want to send them that. Okay? Follow me? Do I have anything else on here? All right. Questions? Did you soak that in? Your brain's processing a little bit?
It's much, much more intuitive than Salesforce, where you really have to.
I'm sorry, could you say that louder for
Yeah.
them?
You really have to put your logic hat on, and
Yeah.
That's a struggle for me.
Yep.
And
And
this is, much more user-friendly, intuitive.
Yeah. I'll answer the question before it even comes up because there's people that have said, can I have more fields? Can you add in more and more and more database fields? And the reality of what that does is it makes it harder to use in the long run. The more variables we add in, the more difficult it is to use. I had this guy's spreadsheet that I don't even know how many queries he had saved in an Excel spreadsheet. It was unbelievable. And it took me a couple of hours. I sat down with it, and I helped him slice it and dice it, and it's all done in AddressTwo with the fields we have existing. It can be done. I've yet to see a company that actually segments their market further than what we allow. We try to keep the variables as small as possible. That's the reason, by the way, why I went ahead and provided a name called primary products rather than telling you to come up with it on your own, because sometimes just that extra variable thrown in, you're like, I don't know, I'm not sure what I should use. And so try to make it very, very simple and intuitive. Yeah.
When you do that import,
Yeah.
I think just by the user defined is what we put as a column header.
Yep, you just put a column header that says user defined, and then you'd, like for me, I might say just RM from Rainmakers, and then I'd just copy, and you know how in Excel you can paste that into hundreds of fields at a time. That's why I like doing that on the import, definitely.